We can't protect our own borders, but we are going to send British troops to protect Ukraine's, apparently. Today is a huge day for Britain, Europe and the world. It started with this.
We must continue to put Ukraine in the strongest possible position, whatever happens next, and to make sure that if there is peace, and we all want peace, that it is lasting, that this isn't just about the front line in Ukraine, it's the front line of Europe and of the United Kingdom. It's about our national security, and I think that we need to do more. We need to step up in terms of our collective response in Europe.
Prime Minister Keir Starmer said that he would be willing to deploy UK troops in Ukraine, a huge statement that could have massive consequences for Britain. Then, representatives of the United States landed in Saudi Arabia. They are set to meet with Russia to discuss a peace deal for Ukraine. Russia's defence minister slammed European leaders and said they should not be anywhere near these negotiations.
The
European philosophy hasn't gone anywhere, so I don't know what they should do at the negotiating table. If they're going to weasel out some cunning ideas about freezing the conflict, while actually intending, as is their custom, nature and habit, to continue this war, then why should we invite them?
So European leaders held their own summit instead. And when it finished, Keir Starmer came out and said this.
Europe must play its role. And I'm prepared to consider committing British forces on the ground alongside others if there is a lasting peace agreement.
But here's the rub for me. Do these European elites, our leaders, have any right to tell us that they care about Europe? That they are willing to defend Europe at all costs? This guy, the chairman of the Munich Security Conference, was crying his eyes out after JD Vance said the truth, that they've let an enemy into Europe already, and that it's ruining our lives.
After the speech of Vice President Vance on Friday, we have to fear that our common value base is not that common anymore. Let me conclude, and this becomes difficult.
Yeah, great to see strong men on the world stage, isn't it? Anyway, was he crying when he heard of the failed Afghan asylum seeker suspected of ramming his car into a crowd and killing people?
Oh, shit. Okay.
Was he crying when a Saudi Arabian did this at a Christmas market?
A breaking news update now. Saudi Arabia's foreign ministry is now condemning an attack on a Christmas market in Germany that killed one toddler and one adult.
Right across Europe, we see sex attacks carried out by so-called asylum seekers or recent migrants.
A day after the allegations of mass sexual assault were made public, Cologne continues to search for the perpetrators and for answers. How could things get so out of hand?
I'll tell you how things could get so out of hand, because European leaders let a load of, at times, barbaric individuals move into our continent. Here in Britain, we have a police force arresting a woman on suspicion of Islamist terror charges, then putting out this mugshot of her in a full niqab to protect her cultural sensitivities. We've got the pro-Palestine mob running amok almost every single week. Police there rushing to protect the cenotaph. We've got immigration judges dictating that we should take Gazan refugees and letting a Jamaican drug dealer stay in Britain as long as he promises to only smoke cannabis and not do harder drugs or sell them. Britain is the Western capital of Sharia courts, with 85 Sharia courts. How did we let that happen? In towns and cities right across Britain, we've had Pakistani rape gangs. 2/3 of suspects in sex attacks in London are foreigners. Finland published their list of sex crimes by nationality, and it revealed that Syrians were 15 times more likely to commit those crimes than the average native population. Afghans and Congolese, 12 times more likely. Iraqis, 10 times more likely. Somalis, 6 times as likely. European leaders chose to let that problem in. In Britain, we send billions of pounds abroad, in some cases to monitor the health of shrimp in Bangladesh. But at home, we have pensioners freezing to death. We've slashed the size of our armed forces. You could fit Britain's entire standing army into Old Trafford Football Stadium with room to spare, and the forces that we have kept, we make them live in squalid conditions like this, with damp, riddled with pests. You wouldn't put a dog in that, would you? The RAF discriminated against white men. It didn't employ pilots who were willing to fight and die for Britain because they were white and male. And in towns up and down the country and cities, we're plonking young, foreign, often Middle Eastern or North African men in hotels, and there have been accusations in some cases of them hanging around schools, harassing girls in school uniform. And yet we are now told by our European leaders, the elites, that they care about defending Europe from Putin. There they are today, grandstanding together, telling us about how much they want to protect Europe. Well, how can we believe a word they say when they've set about ruining this continent and making our lives worse and less safe for the last couple of decades?